In our previous video, we covered this idea of the foundation of argument formation being solid evidence. And so you understand that the best place to find that, to start with, is your assigned readings. And then from there, using general internet searches can be helpful, but what is most useful and reliable is the library. So you have access to that online. Again, go to the link in the Getting Started folder. And so your next steps to really have a strong argument and form it is to carefully read those assigned materials. So having them and actually carefully reading them is not necessarily the same thing. A lot of people do a lot time or use time to search out materials, but then they don't really actually understand them from careful reading, and that is an error, especially if you're thinking about a course where I have assigned something very specific. If you're looking generally, you can skim things, but if it's assigned, you should read it carefully. And so what you're doing when you're carefully reading assigned materials is you're looking for specific examples that support your argument. You're also looking for examples that counter your argument or go against it. And the really important reason for that is because other people will be arguing that, and you need to think about ways that you can undermine it, counter it, argue against it. So in that way, very strong arguments also discuss the opposing views and then refutes those views or undermines those views, argues against them, has evidence and reasoning for it. So you should also have a good understanding of what opposing views are in order to do that. Strong arguments also tend to be the ones that interest readers, or listeners. It doesn't necessarily have to be that they're reading, you could be speaking. And so one way to do this is to include narrative or stories. In order to do that, you need to know the sequence of events in order to use narrative. So that's something that you should establish as you work through assigned material when you complete your research. So you're thinking about the sequence of events in order to later create your own narrative that is interesting and compelling to anyone who is listening or reading what you have wrote or are speaking about. You should also be citing your sources, not only because it's a requirement in college, but it also provides legitimacy or support, credibility to your argument, what you are saying. You are clearly not an expert in any of this, or you wouldn't be taking an intro college level course in this topic. And so you need to cite your sources. This is where this came from. So when you are writing, there are conventions for that. And you have access to those conventions in your Getting Started folder. When you're speaking, you should be verbally citing. So an example of a verbal citation is according to Jane Smith in our 1919 pamphlet. That would be a verbal citation. It is letting your audience know, I am now citing from someone. I'm verbally citing that. So if you are in a simulation, you would be possibly citing yourself or your role in the sense that you are playing this role and you have read something or listened to something from that role, and so you would say instead, as I stated in my 1860 acceptance speech. So you're saying to them, I am citing something. This is something that actually exists. It's a source. There's evidence. That verbal citations lets people know that it's not just what you're making up, but you're citing something through that way. Verbal citations really help make it very clear that you are not just expressing opinions, but you're supporting what you say with evidence. So, as you can tell, I have probably used the word evidence many, many times in these two videos, and I really want to emphasize that. Strong arguments, it doesn't matter how well reasoned they are, or you have been reasoned and well expressed. If you don't have the evidence or the facts or the citations to go along with that, you are unlikely to convince your audience, and that is the point.